Good evening. It's 5:45 p.m. and we are going to call a hearing to order, a hearing of the Kenedy City Council, March 9th, 2021 at 5:45 p.m. My name is Joe Baker. I'm the mayor of Kenedy, and now that the meeting has been called to order, I will call the roll and establish that a quorum is present. Councilmember Sines?
Here.
Councilmember Wynn?
Here.
Councilmember Briones?
Present.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Here.
Councilmember Douglas?
Here.
All are present, and we have a quorum this evening. Item number 3, we will open the hearing. Item number 4, hear residents' concerns and discuss items related to those concerns regarding the extension of the Juvenile Curfew Ordinance found in Chapter 62, Article 2, Division 2 of the City of Kenedy Code of Ordinances, including all offenses, defenses, and penalties contained therein. Mr. Lynn, is there a presentation on this?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Council, Mayor, and residents. Every 3 years, the City of Kenedy is bound to renew its juvenile curfew ordinance. Unfortunately, that didn't get done back in December was supposed to. But we've got it here. I believe all of y'all have the actual codified documents there. All we're simply doing tonight, we're going to let the residents, if they have any concerns, come up and talk, voice their concerns about whether or not they believe this should be done or any amendments or anything they'd like to do. Of course, we have the city attorney here if anyone needs to ask any questions or anything. But essentially tonight, we're just looking to extend it for another 3 years until 2023. Okay? So for that, Mayor, I'll yield back to you. You get to hear more.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to speak to the curfew ordinance and say anything about the ordinance? Please come forward, Ms. Casper.
For those of us that don't know the ordinance, could you give us a brief overview of what the curfew times are by days, by weeks, by holidays, whatever?
Mr. Lynn, can you give that kind of a summary?
Yes, I can. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., Saturday, 12:30 a.m. until 6 a.m., Sunday, 12:30 a.m. until Sunday, 6 a.m., and then 10 o'clock Sunday evening until 6 a.m. on Monday.
Did you skip Friday? I thought you said Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
They did not have Friday in here. That is correct. So there actually isn't a... So what it would look to me, Mayor and Council, is that when they wrote the ordinance, they went Thursday at 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Friday morning, and that they should have went Friday. It would go Friday. That's why it says Saturday, 12:30 a.m., because it's Friday night, 11:59, turns into 12:30, and then to Saturday at 6 a.m. So there's still a Friday, as we would call it, but it's really Saturday morning.
Gotcha. Chief, did you have something to say on this?
Yeah, one quick thing. So I actually was just going to address the hours. To be a little bit more consistent, I would suggest that we do 11 during the week and midnight on Friday and Saturday. So a little more consistent with the traditional ordinance that you find in most places. It just a little easier to follow than 11 to 12:30.
That seems to make more sense.
To the same time in the morning till 6 in the morning?
Yes, 6 in the morning is fine. Yeah,
Okay, just start a little earlier?
yeah, that's fine.
Anything else, Chief?
Nobody asked me, but I agree with you.
No, it's a standard ordinance. It's pretty standard, but I would just, to make it a little more even, I would just do the time change. Be the only thing.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to this? If not, I would entertain any discussion or questions from the City Council.
Mr. Lynn,
Yes, sir.
my recommendation that I mentioned to you before, should I do that now or
Yes,
later?
this would be the
Okay.
proper time.
For those of you that don't know, I am the district attendance officer for Kenedy ISD. One of the biggest issues we have, especially lately, is students that are on quarantine that are not at home quarantining. One of the issues that creates is for law enforcement and the school, because law enforcement is not necessarily able to pick those kids up and bring them to school. I would like to recommend, not all cities do this, but several have. I would like to recommend that we include a daytime curfew that mimics the school district calendar. So it wouldn't apply, during times when school is not in session for the students. For example, this past Friday, students were off. We had to work, but students were off. So it wouldn't apply for that day. I don't know how we would, if that's something that y'all want to do, how we would need to word it, but my recommendation would be to mimic the school district calendar, which would change yearly. So would we have, if we did that, would we have to renew this yearly?
I think it would follow this pattern that we've set, and I do have examples for what you're speaking of with this
Okay.
time.
Because I think that would give, one, it would encourage the kids to stay in school or stay at home with their parent. Some of the other ordinances I read, well, I guess you have other examples, but some of the ordinances I read from other cities basically stated that, you have to either A, be in school when school is in session, or B, be with your parent and or guardian. So if a kid is with their mom at Walmart, that's fine, they're with their mom. But if a kid is at the park skateboarding with no parent around, now law enforcement can actually take action because that is their reasonable suspicion or probable cause to interact with that individual. So it kind of gives law enforcement a little more leeway, dealing with juveniles during the day when they're supposed to be in school, and it helps the school out, especially with attendance issues.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, yeah.
Yes.
The only thing that I would add to that to consider in trying to do this is, in this day and age, even before COVID, the coronavirus pandemic hit, you had a mass growing segment of people homeschooling their children. And homeschoolers traditionally do not follow the same time frames or
Right.
schedules as the local ISD.
Right.
So would we be able to add maybe some type of language in there that would, I don't want to use the word exempt, but keep those homeschoolers from falling privy to,
I think we could make that an affirmative defense as part of the ordinance.
okay.
And just FYI, I did speak with Dr. Barrera, the superintendent, and she thinks it's a wonderful idea and fully supports the idea of having a daytime curfew.
What kind of action would be taken? A citation, or is that what they do now?
That is, give me 1 second, I will go to the end here. The penalty is a fine not to exceed $500.
Okay.
Any further questions or discussion?
And Justin, that would null on holidays, right? Doesn't
Right. I mean, if
It goes to the
you
school calendar.
if you word it to mimic the school district calendar, anytime
Yeah.
that the students are off
make that clear,
and don't
yeah.
have school, it wouldn't apply. So it would only apply when school is in session.
Yeah.
I mean, that way, Christmas break, spring break, things like that, it wouldn't factor into that.
Yeah.
Okay. So then just to clarify, so everyone can hear it said, it would look something like this. It would start at 11 o'clock Sunday night, because Sunday would be going into a weekday like Chief had said. But instead of ending at 6 a.m. Monday morning, it would end at 3 p.m. Monday afternoon. That's kind of what we're looking at there for the Monday through Friday thing?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay,
When school is in session.
right, when school is in session.
Any further discussion or questions? If there's no further discussion or questions?
one last thing. I agree with it, James. That sounds a great idea. But what if, I know some kids get up, and, or like not kids, but teenagers, they like to exercise before school starts. Would being with the curfew in there, would they get in trouble for that? Can we make it where 6 to 8 o'clock or whatever time school starts, they have that little leeway if they want to work out, go running, or,
It ends at 6 a.m., correct?
he said ran it
Well,
to
it
3
would,
p.m.
it would continue
Oh,
on the
through-
school
It'd
day.
be continuous.
Oh.
Yeah.
But when they're working out by themselves or
Yeah,
working out with
they
the
go for
parent?
running around the neighborhood, or I've seen kids running around the neighborhood exercising before school starts, so.
So,
But that still would be left up to the officer that came in contact with them. If they were out exercising and he stopped them and talked to them and they said, we're out exercising before school, and, you know, that's something that he can easily call their parent and verify, and then they go on with their day. The only time that's gonna take effect really is when they're doing something they have no business doing.
Right.
Okay.
And the reason for it is to give legal an opportunity to try to help the parents that don't know that their child is not where they think they're at. Right?
That correct, Chief Ash? The officer can exercise their discretion based on the circumstances?
As with any other violation, the officer always has that discretion. Normally with the juvenile who's out after curfew or something like that, the main goal is their safety, so you get them back to their parents. And I'm not sure if this one has it, but a lot of times you have multiple, like the first two are just a warning, and then the third one is a fine. You know, you can do something like that as well. The main goal of that is to make sure the children are safe.
Right.
It's not a punishment necessarily, but we do want to make sure they get back to somebody who's responsible for it.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Any other questions or discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion at this time.
Do we need a motion?
James,
do we
would
just-
you make a motion along the lines of what you suggested, or?
Do we need to do that now, or is that later in the?
no, this, yeah.
This is just a.
Okay,
This is
this is just the
the hearing
hearing.
part, right.
Okay,
So we just basically need a motion to close the hearing?
that will come back in the agenda for the regular meeting.
Yes.
Okay. If there's no more comments from the public or discussion by the council, then we will close this hearing at this time. We will adjourn the hearing and move into our regular council meeting. Calling the regular city council meeting to order, March 9th, 2021 at 6 p.m. Actually, the time is 5:58 p.m. And I will again call roll and establish a quorum as present. Councilmember Nguyen?
Here.
Councilmember Briones?
Present.
Councilmember Sines?
Present.
Councilmember Rodriguez? Here. Councilmember Douglas?
Here.
All are present, and we have a quorum. Ladies and gentlemen, if you will please rise, and Leslie, if you will lead us in prayer.
Oh, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for the opportunity to bring us together as a community so that we can look at and talk about and discuss things to help us be better. Make us all mindful of each other, kind to each other, and have the ability to listen closely to what's being said so understanding is clear. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we move on to item number 5, I would like to ask the council to move item number 10 up in the agenda. I have spoken with Mr. Lynn about this, and we both agree that considering the circumstances, it would be best if we laid this item on the table until the May meeting. Is that
June 8th.
June 8th meeting? Is there any discussion on that or questions regarding that, or can I entertain a motion to that effect?
It is my belief that while we do need to address and establish the fire department Given the potential for things to get out of control and redundancy of it being placed on a possible future agenda again, I think it's only prudent that we only address this once after the election, letting the council at that point in time address this.
I would entertain a motion at this time to lay this item on the table. Well, we do not have a motion on this, so it stays on the agenda. And we will continue with our agenda in the order listed. We'll move on to citizen comment. Item number 5. Mr. Lynn, do we have any signed up for citizen comments?
We didn't because of the hearing, but Mr. Dutnick would like to speak.
Okay. Mr. Dubnik, if you could please come forward.
Good afternoon or good evening, Commissioners and Mr. Mayor, City Manager. I'm here to address, to talk in support for the local fire department. I've worked with the fire department since I was an EMT for many years, as well as an emergency manager. Yes, there's a lot of things that could be better probably with that department. But you've got some dedicated people that get up in the middle of the night, all hours of the night, literally for nothing. Since the county's changed, they've done hazmat, they've done all kinds of jobs. But I find it hard to believe that Kenedy is ready right now for a full-time paid department, or maybe I've got some wrong information, maybe paid leadership. I don't know exactly what the deal is. But this fire department we have now, we're lucky to have what we have. Are they the best trained? Probably not. But could they be better? Yes, with some good leadership. I think they could. I think any department in the county could. But I just find it hard to believe that right now is not the time to go to a paid department when we barely have maybe 2 to 3 calls a month. I just can't see it. And all the departments we have in the county all work together, so there's always a group that's going to be there to pick up the slack, be it Corn City, Fall City, or Runge. We've even had Beeville here at times. And they all, it's all operated the best that they can. But I just don't think right now, in my personal opinion, is the time to look at having paid leadership to run the fire department. I'd rather see money be put toward the department to a new station, maybe some better equipment, and most of all, better training. And it's all available if somebody can bring them all down in here. The station and the equipment, it's up to the department and to the city council to make things better for them. I've always been told, kind of crazy, but if you look good, you feel good, you work good, and then you are good. If that's what we're trying to do, then let's make these guys, make them feel good, make them feel that they are important to what they need to do, important to the city, and get them a decent place to house their stuff in. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. Is there anyone else that would like to speak under public comments at this time? Yes, sir. Please come forward.
How are you doing? I'm addressing the firefighter issue, volunteer, paid, hybrid, whatever y'all want to call it. Okay. The future of our current Kenedy Volunteer Department is at stake here. It does not involve, or does not have to involve, the dismantling or destruction of a current, successful, already running program. It's there. It's going like it's supposed to. I don't see by eradicating what we've built for so long, for the past 100 years, to be exact, and what we've done and the sacrifices that we've made, how is that measured by compensation? Is it a pat on the back or is it money in your pocket? That's not why I get up. That's not why I answer the call. That's not why my brothers and sisters answer the call. It's not because we're looking to get something out of this. We're looking to help people. We're looking to do what we got to do for them. I asked, of the city management and city council on this agenda, on this item, how much individually have y'all put into this actual consideration? How much, with 3 decisions that are there, what is so prominent or what's going to be so beneficial by, having to rebudget or having to come up with more money or funds to pay for something that's already being offered for free. We help when we can and we do what we can when we can. But the problem we're having is when we come to ask for help. That's the issue. That's where the training should be coming in. That's where, what we are doing and what we're trying to become better at, that's where the money and stuff needs to be going into. Invest in what you already have. You don't look at situations and come up with just a solution. You try to fix the problems first. And by trying, that means showing up to meetings that we invite, coming to ask the department what's going on, how do we feel, do we need help, or is everything running like it's supposed to? That's something that we all have to think about. There's no reason why Kenedy, Texas should not have the #1 fire department in the county. There's no reason. We've had plenty of money come in. We've had plenty of things come through this town. But we're still stuck in the same building. We're still doing what we got to do, making what we have work all the time. Doesn't matter. If something goes down, we're able to fix it. We're able to bring it back up. You don't even know that a hiccup has happened. The county doesn't even know that, that there was something that was broken that could have eventually led to a disastrous effect. But with what skill we have and what we have available, we make it work. You can agree to this or you can disagree to this. I just hope that council takes into consideration how much of a problem we have never been. It's not. We're not the problem. That's what I need y'all to understand, that it's like if they're creating a problem of us when we're not.
I appreciate your comments, sir. There is a 3-minute limit under public comments. If you would wish to address this further as we approach item number 10, you're welcome to do so at that time. Are there any other public comments this evening? Yes, please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor. May I remove my mask, please?
Yes.
Thank you. To the City Council, stop and reflect on what's going on in our city. I do not have anything personal against any of you, but many citizens in Kenedy are really disappointed, as I am. Why does the city manager not want to release public record? Does he have something to hide? By law, he has 10 days to release the record before it goes to the Attorney General. I'm sure if the Attorney General receives many letters from the citizens in the same town, it would raise a red flag. So all you Kenedy citizens that want public record, ask Mr. Lynn if he refuses to give it. But be sure you send a letter to the Attorney General. This man comes in and you let him do what he wants without even thinking of how it's going to affect us all. You're supposed to be our voice, and you voted in with intentions that you would take care of your people. You have disappointed many people in our town with decisions you made for us. This man does not live here, nor pays taxes here. However, he does take our dollars to give to another town. This man is just here to ride, and when he leaves, he will have already made people turn against each other and have made our little town into a big mess. We're the ones that have to live here with each other, not him. As for the citizens of Kenedy, I'm asking you all to remember this in the upcoming election. City Council members, we're asking you to put a stop to this and speak up for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valderramos. Are there any other public comments at this time? Please step forward, sir.
Good evening. Let me introduce myself. I'm Don Staggs. My parents were Lowell and Lewis Staggs. We moved here in '56, and my mother worked at Sellers Drugstore. My dad was in the school system. He was a principal in the primary school and then junior high until his retirement. I graduated in '68. I spent 2 years, what was then B County Junior College, and left Kenedy in '72 to further my education with no intention of ever returning to Kenedy. And we can see that things change. You do things differently. I moved back about 4 years ago into the house that I grew up in. My sister and I kept once my dad passed away and my stepmom decided she wanted to move to Hallettsville. Thanks much in part to Eagle Ford Shell, Kennedy's changed in many ways. While things grew and moved forward along Highway 181, new businesses came and population grew, and that's good, but much of downtown Kenedy has died. By that I mean they're unoccupied buildings. The rest of Kenedy, they're deserted houses where lots are not tended to. Some houses need to be demolished. They're a safety and a health hazard, and that's not just my opinion. Since Kenedy no longer operates a dump, brush piles up sometimes until the contracted company picks it up. That is the responsibility of us as citizens to call them. I do know that. A beautiful new park along with an athletic complex that I understand now is finished is a great thing for Kenedy. And I understand that we're talking about a paid fire department when you already have a good fire department. You don't need a paid fire department. You got people that volunteer. They do that greatly. I think we need to wake up and do more for the city of Kenedy. And by that I mean paving the streets and removing dilapidated buildings and cleaning overgrown lots. All the new growth is great, but as a city council, mayor, and city manager, you're letting the rest of Kenedy fall apart in some ways. I live on Cottonwood Street, where I grew up, and most of our streets in good condition, but Graham Road, however, is and has been a disaster. Some of the I've told some fire hydrants don't even work, but I realize a tremendous amount of work has been done on sewer and water pipes that had to be replaced along Graham Road. Graham Road, along with other connecting streets and other streets in Kenedy, were and still are in terrible conditions. I, along with the rest of the population of Kenedy, want to be proud of Kenedy. I'm not asking you to raise taxes to take care of this, but I'm asking you to spend Kennedy's tax money for the good of all of Kenedy, and then that, in my opinion, means to fix what's broken first before starting expansion. I respectfully thank you for your time and letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Staggs. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment at this time? If not, we'll move on to item number 6, Departmental Reports. First on the list of reports is a report from Public Works Director. Sir, if you could come forward at this time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor. I'm going to start off just a few little things here. We produced 39.7 million gallons of potable water. We had a water loss of 2.1 million for 5.39%. At the wastewater treatment plant, our effluent was 29.8 million gallons. And right underneath that on our service orders completed for the month, it was 967. I had a typo there, so if any of y'all have that, that was the same number from last month. I caught it earlier, but on the next sheet, or 2 over, I don't know if y'all have my packet or not, but I had trouble sending emails, but I have a work order or service order spreadsheet for the months, and so I have that. Our water conservation plan, our numbers are still pretty low, so I still recommend staying at stage 2, and that keeps us safely at that point. We had 3 boil water notices for the month. We had 4 SSOs for the month that was reported to TCEQ. We had no violations for the month of February out at the wastewater treatment plant. We've been working on Johnny Bear Field, trying to get it back where we can, so people can play on it. Just a few odds and ends here. And we do have a few projects we're fixing to start here in the next few days. Most of you remember we replaced the sewer main on Graham Road from Escondido up to around Maple. Well, now we're going to be replacing the water line from Escondido up to Nueces. All that's cast iron pipe, and we've got a lot of leaks on it. And yes, the road's in bad shape, but please bear with us a little while. We have PVC from up top down to Nueces, so we'll be replacing all that cast iron from Nueces down to Escondido. And that will probably start in the next week or so. I don't have an actual timeline on when that's going to start, but when I get that from the contractor, then I'll try to get it posted on Facebook or whatever.
Jerry, do we have a plan to repave that once it's all done?
Not that I'm aware of at this time yet. No, ma'am. We've got a lot of projects going forward, and that will be put on. But I can't give you a timeline on that. But there's several streets in town that we are looking at as we go forward and trying to get those implemented in.
I understand that, but Graham Road wasn't in the best shape to begin with, and then when we replaced the sewer lines, it was kind of worse than when it was before. So I'm wondering.
Well, that is true. I'm not denying any of that, but it's not going to do any good to pave that road and then go dig it up, replace that water line.
I understand that, but
Mr. Lynn, I think Mr. Lynn has something to say on this.
Pardon me, Jerry, not to interrupt. Counselor Sines, again, not to interrupt. Okay, so the proper way to do infrastructure in a municipality, okay, and this is the proper way to do it. You identify what's under the ground first that needs replaced. You tear up your road, you replace what's under the ground, and then you go back over top of it with brand new. So you do all three at one time, okay? We had some extenuating circumstances that have caused us to kind of piecemeal Graham together. Mm-hmm. But after we get the water line put in up to Nueces, we will then go back and come back down, at least from Nueces down to Escondido, and we will overlay that to where it looks nice all the way down, to where there's not ruts or anything like that. Kind of like what we did on Pecan. Okay, when we did all that work up on Pecan and we came back down and we redid that, we're going to redo that on Graham from Nueces back down. Okay? What we'll have to do with that, though, Counselor, just so that the council knows, is we're going to have to schedule that in, given the weather and that when we get done with Graham Road. Because if I remember correctly, we are in the month of March, and last year, towards the end of this month, we started getting them gully washers, and we can't lay asphalt during the gully washers. We've got to have at least a certain degree temperature every day for the hot mix to bind. But it will be a targeted item.
Okay, because what I don't want to happen is, and I thought with Lavaca and Pecan and Boo Street, I thought they were all going to be repaved after they finished replacing those sewer lines. I thought that's what we were told when we first started the project, and I've only seen Pecan done, so I don't want these things to keep falling by the wayside, because we can't leave the streets the way they are.
No,
I
agree.
know there's a lot of streets in town that need to be paved, but I just don't want it to, 2 years later, we're going to come back and talk about Graham Road.
No, ma'am. We're going to address Graham Road after we get this pipe in the ground, because then from Nueces to Escondido, it'll have new water and sewer pipe underneath it, and we'll need to make sure we get that overlaid and taken care of there. As far as Lavaca and Boo go, they are on the project itinerary for, at the very latest, the first part of the next budget year, to come back and do the whole thing all the way down as well, on those as well. So we'll see how things go, but we've had some issues come up, like with the sewer line on Graham Road that was unexpected of us having to go through and replace that 1,100 foot. That's kind of moved us away, but yes.
Ms. Casper, I believe you have a comment?
May I ask when Graham Road's work begins on replacement of the water lines as well as the repaving of it, that we have traffic control? It's ridiculous how it was during the sewer replacement. You wouldn't even know that there was construction going on until you turned on to Graham, and then you'd have to wait for 5 or 10 cars to come down. And there was no one there directing. There were no cones up. There was no road closed signs, nothing. And Graham Road is a major thoroughfare, not only for residents, but also for the city to get to the RO plant.
Yes, ma'am. And we will take from that past experience, and we will take care of that going forward. Yes, ma'am.
We do have other sections of town that already have water mains and sewer mains replaced, and we should be getting started on those paving, like Maytag. Those water lines got replaced already, sewer lines got replaced already. Houston Street, water and sewer's been replaced already. So we need to try to get these projects started to get that finished, so that the citizens are seeing that we're making progress in that we're paving. You know, and that's the problem right now. And
yes,
those are sections of town that already have new mains.
If it's okay with the city council and the mayor, what I'd like to do is, I'm just going to not answer your question right now, Councilor Rodriguez, and when I get up to do my city manager report, we can drill down on this a little bit more so that Mr. Higgins can get through his report, if that's okay with you.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, please continue, Mr. Higgins.
Well, I don't have much more in my report, but I would like to make a couple comments. You all know we went through some bad weather last month, and our teams, the public utilities, worked very diligently around the clock, several days, trying to do the best we could to keep everybody in water. I believe we were ahead of a lot of cities trying to do what we done, and what we had to deal with. We had no power, and then we'd have it, and then we wouldn't have it for 4 hours. And but we all came together. We worked. Everybody worked around the clock, and on my behalf, I'd just like to apologize to the city for the things that happened. It was out of our control, but still, we handled it the best we could. And I'd just like to say a special thank you to all my guys, my crew, the employees of the City Utilities Department for the outstanding work that they done. We sent out boil water notices as soon as the pressure dropped, you know, and that wasn't our fault. And we were able to rescind that on Saturday about noon, so everybody could go back to restaurants especially. We tried our best to get it out. We advertised on the news, Facebook, any place else we could advertise. I apologize if everybody did not get the boil water notice or the rescind notice, but we did the best we could at trying to contact everybody. So that's all I have to say about that. So if anybody has any questions, feel free.
I just want to say, Mr. Higgins, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Lynn. I thought the city's response was outstanding given the circumstances. Thank you for stepping up for this community. It's one thing to lose power, but when you lose power and water at the same time, that is a whole different ballgame. And I know you guys worked your tails off to get the job done, and you got it done a lot quicker than a lot of other water providers in this area. So we appreciate that.
You're welcome.
You stole my thunder a little bit, but I did want to say thank you to you especially, and your team. I know there was many other cities in the entire state that continued to go without water 3-4 extra days, and some even continued water boil notices. So I think under the circumstances that we were in, dealing with what we had to deal with, along with every other Texan for the most part, I think y'all did a fabulous job. I know there was a couple of times where I jumped in my truck. Thank God it's 4-wheel drive, and I saw city vehicles out. I saw y'all working, you know, when many other people were at home keeping warm. So thank you very much for everything that y'all did to ensure, that we could continue business as best we could under the circumstances. I think y'all just did a great job.
Thank you very much.
I did have one question, though, in your reports, or a couple questions.
Okay.
I noticed on here, under the management activities, y'all were looking at a demo on a street sweeper.
Yes,
I thought we had one.
we do. It is not an adequate piece of machinery,
It's a parking lot sweeper.
and I'll leave it at that.
What did you say? What was that? I missed it.
It is not an adequate piece of machinery.
Yeah.
Are
To get the
we,
proper machine,
We know.
do we have,
proper application, that's a parking lot sweeper.
do we
That's
have
a
any,
sweeper.
do we have any plans of what to do with that piece of equipment? Are we gonna sell it? We're gonna,
We're looking into all available outlets for it at this time. We've done some mechanicing work on it in-house, and we had to replace some stuff on it. We were able to actually use it today. It's not the best, but we're miles ahead of where we were a few months ago with it. But if we decide to go forward, or y'all decide, whoever decides to go forward and get a different sweeper, we are looking for outlets for it to do something with it.
can you also potentially look at, the ability, some avenues as far as, contracting that service out so that we have a comparison when that time comes to compare a contract service versus an in-house piece of equipment?
Haven't looked at that, but that's a good idea.
And
We can
then,
do it in-house if Mr. Higgins gets one of his guys, because we used to do it in the past. We rent a sweeper, the one that's the proper application. So
Right.
it's not, this thing is dangerous because the steering is in the back.
Yes, sir.
It's very dangerous, and the guys lose control of it. It was not the right machine to get. That's it.
then the other question I had, the interviews that lasted 2 days, how many positions were replaced? How many were added? And why were new positions added?
So far, none, and none. We do have open positions, but I believe Mr. Lynn is going to address that in his comments down here on when he gets up.
All right, that's all I had.
Any other questions for Mr. Higgins or comments from the council?
Thanks for the great.
If not, thank you, Mr. Higgins. We appreciate the hard work.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the police chief report. Chief Ash, if you could come forward.
Give me just a second.
Take your time. No rush.
Some technology here. See if it works.
Yeah, a little lighter than usual.
You can hear me?
There we go.
Yes, I can. Okay, will you speak just a minute so I can get the volume?
Sure. So I'll start off with honorable mayor, council members, and citizens.
Can you hear me? Okay, hold on one second, Max. Hold on. If you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to start off with a quick presentation on Zoom. This gentleman speaking is Chief Westbrook. I don't know, some of y'all may have met him before. His company was one that actually hired me when I came to work here. He's also in charge of the Texas Police Chiefs Recognition Program. We just recently received our certificate. We are complete, and he's going to give you a little presentation on what it means and why it's important.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Chief, go ahead, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate being here this evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Honorable Mayor, council members, citizens of Kenedy, good evening. My name is Max Westbrook. I'm retired from the Austin Police Department this evening to present the Kenedy Police Department a certificate of recognition for achieving compliance with the Texas law enforcement's best business practices. Several years ago, the Texas Police Chiefs Association developed an accreditation program for Texas law enforcement. Many of you are already aware of accreditation programs for schools, universities, and hospitals. These are all programs of professional excellence that require independent proof of compliance with a set of rigorous standards. Texas Best Practices Program is an accreditation program that has 170 challenging standards for Texas law enforcement. These standards address the full range of law enforcement operations, such as use of force, protection of citizens' rights, vehicle pursuits, officer training, arrest, search and seizure, patrol and investigative operations, and property and evidence, just to name a few. This program has become the new gold standard for professional law enforcement in Texas, and agencies across the state are working diligently to meet these requirements. This is a voluntary program. No one forced the agencies to participate. Approximately 2 years ago, Chief Ash and the Kenedy Police Department began the process of proving its compliance with these difficult standards. And they had to prove their compliance with well-trained, independent assessors. It was not easy to comply. The agency had to do a complete audit of all of its policies, procedures, training, and operations in order to meet these standards. The process culminated in February of this year when 2 trained assessors, police executives from other parts of the state, made an on-site inspection of the agency. These assessors interviewed staff, inspected facilities and operations, and they assured compliance with all of the standards. Their report was then sent to the Recognition Committee, comprised of 9 serving police chiefs from around the state of Texas, who reviewed the report and voted to award recognized status to the Kenedy Police Department. I should point out that that vote was unanimous. During this process, the Kenedy Police Department has proven that it meets or exceeds all of our standards. This is my favorite part about doing this. There are currently over 2,400 law enforcement agencies in the state of Texas, and only 173 agencies are currently recognized in our program. This evening, we officially recognize the Kenedy Police Department as the 173rd recognized agency in the state of Texas. What does this mean to you? The recognition program assures this council and the citizens of Kenedy that your agency is operating in a manner that reflects current best practices for law enforcement in the state of Texas. It means your agency is one of the very best in the state. The certificate we present this evening is a symbol of our professional excellence. However, the real value of the program is the process they went through to attain it. And this is not the end of the process. The program assists the agency in maintaining compliance with the standards. The agency will submit annual reports and analyses to assure continued compliance, and in 4 years, we'll be back to do another on-site inspection. Your police department has proved to train independent assessors they are one of the very best in the state of Texas. You should be very proud of their accomplishment. I know that I am, having helped out Chief Ash. Chief Ash, please accept my congratulations. Thank you very much for letting me participate this evening.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief Westbrook. We appreciate that. Chief, congratulations to you and your department. This is a big step forward for the Kenedy Police Department. So,
We got to do a wide picture, sorry.
take your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple other items before I'm done. I did want to take a second to, brought Sergeant Elizondo with me today. I wanted to take an extra moment to thank him. Sergeant Elizondo was our program manager. I think I kind of went blind looking at policies, but he looked at a whole lot more than I did. He did most of the work on this, going through every one of these standards, and they're not easy. There's a lot of work to it. We started on this right after I got here. We had a discussion about doing it. It's been over 2 years ago when we started this process, but he's worked very diligently, and I want to thank him for that as well.
Thank you, Sergeant Elizondo.
I have a couple more items, and then I'll be done. I know you got other things to do. I want to make sure that we let you know we passed the inspection. That was our big news. As I know, Jerry Higgins just talked a little bit about the snow. I call it snowvid. I love that snowvid. We just to give you a little update on the shelter. What the police department, our part of it was, we opened the shelter. We helped with some of the traffic and things like that. But our main role was we did run the shelter. We ran that for, I think I had it 4 nights, and it was really only designed as a warming shelter. It was never really designed for long term, but we did end up with 4 nights with people in here. They ended up having a really good time. Everybody's got to know each other. They were getting here cooking and cleaning and had a really good old time. But at the height of it, we had about 12 people staying in here at night. We had other people come in, get coffee and leave, come in, warm up, and then head back out. We had several people do that as well. I did do an after-action report, which I gave to the city manager on what we did well and suggestions to make. And, I came up with some thoughts we want to do next time. And we'll start preparing for it if we have to do that again. Some ideas on that as well. As you can see, February was extremely cold. If anybody has questions about why some of our activities are down in February, it was cold. Most of our time we spent a lot of time with shelter and dealing with that. But we do continue our normal operations in the police department. Real quick on animal control, they had 34 calls last month. We picked up 16 dogs and 12 cats. The rescue group took 11 of them, and they've had some issues as well over there. They lost power for a while. They've had some other issues as well, so it's harder to get them to take them, but they're doing the best they can. 1 raccoon, 1 possum, no snakes this month, so we're good there. We did issue 2 citations and 3 warnings. And Animal Control Officer Ernie Salinas has been kind of working by himself. Everyone has been out on FMLA, but he'll be back next week, and so we'll be back to full strength then. So that's my report, Mr. Mayor. If you have questions.
Any questions from the council for Chief Ash? Chief, thank you again, especially for opening the shelter, and Mr. Lynn, you as well. That was a wonderful thing to do for the people of this community under the circumstances. I know a lot of communities did not do that as quickly as we did, and I appreciate your efforts very much.
One more thing. Just a reminder, I know y'all have is it March 31st coming up?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Part of the recognition, the Police Chiefs Conference is the last week of March. Normally it's in Galveston. This year, for some reason, they lost their mind and went to Fort Worth. I'm not sure why. But next year we'll be back at Galveston again, back where the sun is. But we will, there's a luncheon they hold during the conference where they recognize new agencies that have reached the standard. We will be recognized at that luncheon. All elected officials are, of course, welcome. If anybody would like to drive all the way to Fort Worth and come to lunch with me, please just let me know. You do have to buy a ticket because it's a very fancy, lunch and all that kind of stuff. But if anybody would like to come, of course you are welcome. Just please let me know, and I will set that up for you. It's on Wednesday. Is that the 1st of April? I believe it is.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Next item on the agenda is item number 7, City Manager Report, and under that heading, the first item is Departmental Reports, City Secretary, Code Compliance, Fire Department, Court, Staffing, Current Projects, Future Projects, Current Operations, and/or Future Operations. Mr. Lynn, do you have a presentation?
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor and council, thank you. All right, so before I really get into the meat of this, let's go back to earlier when Mr. Higgins was there so I can finish addressing the concerns of Councilor Rodriguez and some of the other council members. These other roads are on the radar to do. We're going to be getting with our street department superintendent, Mr. Hernandez. And what we're going to do is we're going to put an action plan together so that we can do these very systematically and get them done. One of my pet peeves is I dislike half-done projects. And so I want to make sure we get this done start to finish, one road at a time. I think it's better for the residents if they see it that way than to have hodgepodge going. So they are on our radar. We will get them taken care of.
The reason I asked is because I know that we have the street paving fund, so we need to utilize that street paving fund.
Yes, sir. And that's one of the reasons why is because that's what we're going to do. We're going to start pulling from that text pool fund that I'll go over in the financials. It's about $2.5 million. And we're going to start pulling from that to make sure we get some of this stuff done as quickly as we can. Okay? All right? Very good then. Y'all forgive me, if you would, please, with this.
Take your time.
Trying to work around this. We got this to put up here, and I was kind of hoping it would go on the outside of the thing instead of on the inside of the thing. So, all right. All right, so we'll start off with the staffing part of this. I know that's a big question here. So we did an open interviewing session, which I announced at the February meeting that we were going to be doing on that Thursday and Friday. I made that very clear in my report. It went well. There was a decent turnout. It was kind of cold. But we had all in all about 20 or so people show up for that. Of all the candidates that showed up, there was about 8 of those candidates that the department looked at, and they said, you know what, we'd like to go a little bit further with these people. And so we went further with those 8 candidates. We immediately ruled out 4 of those candidates and disqualified them for various reasons right off the bat after we did background checks and things of that nature. So that took it down to 4, and then we've taken 4 people that we have moved on to the next step to do their substance testing and their physicals that we're looking at. The issue here is that we're still light about 8 people. When we look at everything in the city and you break down all the departments and everything, we're light 3 in the wastewater, we're light 3 in the water, we're light 1 building official and 1 HR assistant. So if you take those numbers of being light 8 people, we've found 4 people possibly that can fill in these gaps in these other areas. The issue with the water department is that we do have an RO plant. And we do need people who can have an aptitude or an acumen to do this, because this is not just like simple water processing that you would have in most other municipalities. This is likened unto a surface water plant to where you have all the different gauges and the blendings that have to go in, and you've got to get the chemicals completely correct. Otherwise, you could inadvertently either poison someone or the water could go the opposite way and not be sterile enough. So, we've got to be very stringent with who we choose to go up there to help out. We have an excellent operator up there right now. Hector does an excellent job for us, but we can't depend on Hector to be here 24/7, 365 days. We've got to get him some relief, so we're looking at some people. We've got one person we think that might have this particular aptitude that we're looking for, that we can get them up there to help out, and then maybe work through that person to get their licensing and everything that they would need, their Class C water and maybe a B if they're so inclined from there. So that is why we did the hiring event, okay? Whenever you have a team, you start out with your team. And then what you do is you come in and you evaluate your team and you want to build your team, but not everybody's going to be around. Not everybody's going to want to work. Not everyone's going to want to show up for work. Not everyone's going to want to do what's asked of them. So the best time to replace your team is while you still have the body there, rather than being at the mercy of being shorthanded. So we continually look for good people. There comes a point in time where we say to ourselves, okay, stop. We're at our optimal staffing. And once we hit optimal staffing, then we can begin to become the picky employer rather than the employer who more or less is looking for, okay, I need a body, you have some experience, let me bring you in, or this kind of thing. We can be very stringent with who we bring in at that point in time. And that is the goal. Because once we have the people in, as I've told the members of the team, we're looking to train as many people that want training. Anybody who wants training, it's available to them at the city's expense. They just simply have to tell us they want to do it, and then they have to apply themselves to get the training. We can't do the training for them. So we're looking to always develop our people from within, because that's the best place to go. So anyway, so that's where we are with that. Before I move on, because I know it was such an issue. Does anybody want to ask any questions about this before I move on?
Any questions from the council?
Have I answered, Counselor? Okay, good. All right, very good. Moving on then. There's no city secretary report. I'm not the city secretary. The fire department report. Let me do this. Would it be okay, Mr. Mayor, if I jump down into my report to address something real quick and then come back to the fire department?
Yes, please.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I want to jump all the way down to the operations portion of my report first, simply because we've talked a lot about it already, and that is the winter weather event. And there's a lot going on with that. I want to make sure that everybody is made aware of, and I want to do it before what I like to say, my mad cow kicks in and I forget. So the first thing I want to do is I definitely want to thank all of our team members, every single one of them. We had team members that could not get out in the weather because they didn't have water, they didn't have electricity, they couldn't get out. So we shuttered City Hall for that reason. But we had a lot of team members who did come out and work. And I definitely want to thank those team members who came out and worked in the inclement weather. That was very, very nice, and I'm very thankful that they did that. I also want to thank the governing body. Whether or not you all want to believe it, you all were a huge part in the success of what happened. First, you allowed us to shutter City Hall for almost a week. At any point in time, you could have told the city manager, no, that was not right. Open the doors, and I would have had to open the doors. But you didn't do that. And then whenever the MREs came in and the water came in, you all showed up and you helped distribute the water and the MREs to people. During the event, I know Mayor Baker and numerous council members were driving around town, helping those in town with food and water and things that they could help them with. So, and not just the residents, you were helping employees as well. So I definitely want to make sure that I extend a thank you to you guys for doing that and taking care of that while during that event. I also need to thank the executives at AEP and Karnes County Electric and the executives that I spoke with at ERCOT. Those three agencies pulled together in all the conversations that we had. I explained to them what our necessity was with our system. And our system was that we had a failure. Our failure has been in the city of Kenedy for many, many, many years. I know Councilor Rodriguez, when he was the Public Works Director, he and I talked about it. He brought this failure to the light of the council, and it was passed over. Unfortunately, that failure came back to bite us in the rear end recently. And that failure is we do not have generators at our well pumps or at our RO plant. So we are literally at the mercy of nature. If it had not been for the executives I spoke to at AEP and Karnes and ERCOT, we would not have gotten the water back on. They made the necessary moves that they had to make at their levels to authorize electricity to be redirected on the grid to get there so that these things could happen. So they deserve just as much of a kudos as a thank you as everybody else does. I know they would probably try to shun it, but they deserve it, especially that poor guy at ERCOT. He's getting beat over the head over this, and I know he is. So what we've got is we've got these generators, okay? And what we need to understand with these generators is that we had an electrical company that does work up at our RO plant, Mercer. And Mercer's come out, and I asked Mercer in the heat of this that as soon as it got warm enough for him to be on site, I wanted him on site at every well at the RO plant. I wanted to report. I wanted to know, what do I need? How many generators do I need? And how much is this going to cost my city? So what happened is he went out there, and what we need is this. We have 5 wells in the RO plant. And those 5 wells in the RO plant, the generators are going to cost us $700,000. And that's just an estimate tonight as I stand here. So what we're going to do is we're going to refine that number. I'm going to work with Mercer. Mr. Higgins is going to work with Mercer. And we're going to look at it a little bit more. And then next month at the April meeting, we're going to have an agenda line item for council to approve the purchase of the generators. This will not happen again in Kenedy as long as I'm city manager. We will have generators at this RO plant on these wells. We're coming into hurricane season this year, towards the end of the year, and we still got to go through winter 21, 22. And even given the aggressive timeline I laid out for the city council on the water transmission line being laid from Poth to here, we still have several potential opportunities for severe weather to cripple our municipality again. And I just can't live with that, knowing what's wrong. So we're going to fix this problem. We're going to fix this problem right now. So I just want to make sure that I bring that to you guys' attention there. Also, due to the winter weather event, there's a few things that we did for the residents. The first thing we did for the residents, we had about 18 residents who were on payment plans. And we've all heard about these payment plans where the resident couldn't pay their bills back during the pandemic, and their bills are like $2,000 or whatever, and now they're getting a regular bill, and it's just insurmountable. We forgave all 18 of them. We just came in and we just said, you know what, we'll just forgive it, we'll take the hit, and we'll start them off at zero. So those 18 people got a break, zero. They don't owe the city any back, they don't know arrears. The second thing that we did was we said, okay, for every single resident in the city of Kenedy, we know for a fact that most of the residents left their water running during the time to let water flow through, because that's what we were all taught. When you have freezing weather, you let your water trickle so that your pipes don't freeze and burst. So that's what they did. Well, that usually results in a higher than average water bill. So what we did was we sent out water bills. Yes, they went out late. Yes, the dates were off. But that's only because the time we normally would have sent them out was during the middle of the winter crisis. The guys couldn't be out reading meters during that time. So we sent the bills out anyway. Then the young ladies in the office, what they did was they went back in and they issued credits to every water bill for a residential customer equivalent to the amount of their water and sewer usage on that bill. So that the only thing that the residents have to pay in the city of Kenedy on that March bill is their trash. And the only reason we didn't do trash is because trash is a revenue source that comes in. But we pay these people out of this money that comes in. So we have an expense and a revenue. So this revenue basically covers this expense. If we forgave the trash, we would have had two deaths. We wouldn't have had the money coming in, and we still would have had to pay the expense on this end. That is the only reasons why we didn't do the trash. But all residents were taken care of. And now the businesses, I understand small businesses in town had some hardships as well. However, back when we did the budget for the 4B, one of the things I insisted that the 4B put in there, and this was during the height of the pandemic, and the three counselors that were here at the time will remember this, is that I insisted that they put in a grant fund, much like some of the other municipalities in Texas had done, to help their small businesses in their town through the pandemic. Those people who had to shutter their doors, kind of like the Horn Toad Cafe did. Well, if we'd had that in place right away, the Horn Toad Cafe could have came and got money for their rent and could have kept their doors open. I use them as an example because I've eaten there and they're right across the street. Well, I encourage all of the local small businesses in town that if they were adversely affected, the 4B has this money, upwards of almost $165,000, to give out in small increments to the people, that they should approach the 4B and apply to them for some relief towards this. And that is why we are guiding them there. I think that's the more appropriate, more prudent way to go with the businesses rather than the opposite way. So we've got that going as well.
Real quick, can I pause you real quick? I know the water issue has been a huge conversation on Facebook. And since this is being live streamed, I just want to confirm that what I posted on Facebook is in fact true. So for clarification, if someone's water bill, for example, showed $90 as a total, 30 for sewer, 30 for water, and 30 for trash, even though their bill says $90 is what's owed, all that they have to pay is the $30 for trash.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's all I needed.
The other thing that we did was we took and we looked at the thing. We said, okay, we're taking care of the residents. We're taking care of all this other stuff. The other thing we have to do is you have to take care of our team. Okay? So we had people who couldn't get out. And I knew for a fact that the team members in this town were going to stress out over, what do I got to do? How am I going to get paid? How am I going to put bread on the table? How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to pay my electric bill when it comes in because of all this? Okay, so, unlike other municipalities which said to their team members, stay home, and by the way, you have 4 weeks of PTO, use it. The City of Kenedy, again, did not do that. We did not do this during the pandemic. I did not penalize not a single team member during the pandemic for staying home whenever we had the quarantines going on. We continued to pay them out of our coffers because, number one, the money was budgeted. Okay. Number two, I wanted to make sure we did the right thing by our team members because the pandemic wasn't their fault. Well, this winter event was not their fault. They did absolutely nothing to cause this. So rather than penalize them PTO, we let the ones that stay home that can stay home, and we guaranteed them their 40 hours that week. Now, I do know there are some that worked, and they didn't get the guaranteed 40 hours because they worked, and a lot of them worked a lot. Okay? However, I felt that in spite of that, regardless of how many hours they worked, whether they worked 80 hours in 1 week or 130 hours in a week, I did not care. If they came out and worked, I felt they were owed a bonus. So we gave a maximum, and it wasn't a lot, but we gave a maximum of $150 if you worked all 5 days. If you worked 1 day, you got $30. If you worked 2, you got $60. If you worked 3, you got $90. We prorated it. But if you worked all 5 days, we gave them another $150 just for the sheer fact of them coming out into the weather and braving the elements to be here for the city of Kenedy. I know there's many people in my past who are old school, and the old school mentality would be, well, so what? They got 50 hours of overtime. That should be compensation enough. I do not agree with that mentality. Okay? We had the opportunity. We did it. I took advantage of it for the employees. Council, if I was wrong, I apologize. I'm at your mercy. But it was the right thing to do in my eyes for the employees. So I want to make sure that I bring that up to you guys tonight and make sure that everybody understands where we are on all of that. Okay? Before I move on out of this, is there anything you would like to say?
I do have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Can you get us totals on the amount of credit issued for the 18 accounts that were past due, or on the payment plans, I'm sorry, and then the totals for the water issued, and then the totals for the bonuses issued?
I will email you all that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Lynn?
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Casper?
Could you tell us what the revised dates are for the water bill? Because several people have commented that their cycle on their bill is what it says, what it's supposed to be, like mine should be the 4th through the 5th of the following month. But then you just said there were some changes to the billing cycle because they couldn't get out and read meters, which is another question because I thought with the new Badger meters, we didn't have to get out and read the meters.
Not everybody has the new system in, but we're not going to actually change the dates because really all that you owe is just the trash. And we also suspended all cutoffs and all late fees until April the 16th. What will happen is as we go through this and we turn, everything will just go right back to normal in the month of April.
So then technically the week of the snowvid, the snowpocalypse, whatever you want to call it, those days that we did have water and we streamed or dripped our water, those readings will be on our next bill, not this bill.
They're on this bill because the guys went out to take care of the meter readings the next week after the winter weather event. So everything that was used up through that date is on the bills that people currently have. However, if anyone does have an extremely large bill in the next cycle, I encourage them to call and reach out to City Hall. We'll take care of the residents that have issues.
So then the billing cycle dates were altered.
They're incorrect. Weren't they incorrect?
Because the snowvid week was February 14th.
Right. Normally, it wouldn't. Normally, that week would not be in your bill that you got for March.
Right.
Okay.
So it'll be in next month's bill. So our bills in next month are going to be surprise.
If they're surprised, I'll deal with it. Okay. But the guys did not go out until the next week to do the meter reads. Okay. So again, if they don't read the meters until the next week, they're reading the meter based upon what's been used through the day they read the meter.
Which would include the
Which would include the, right, so that the bill that came out would include that for many. So it's like I say, I understand where everybody is on this, okay? And I want to do everything I can to help everybody. And it's not really an exact science sometimes, but we are very fluid in how we take care of the residents, if the residents will reach out to us and give us the opportunity to do it. Okay? So that's all I'm saying. What we've done so far, and the staff at City Hall has worked extremely hard to make this happen for y'all. So I'm just saying, if by chance, can I use you as an example? Sure. Okay, so let's say, for example, you do get a $200 water bill next month. Just reach out to City Hall and give us a call, we'll deal with it. We will take care of it.
Will you also post on Facebook the information that James requested as far as the cost of all these allowances that were given, the 18 forgiven accounts, the forgiveness of all water and sewer bills for this cycle, as well as, what was it, the cost of the bonuses?
I will, actually what I'll do with that is I'll put that in my report for next month. That way, whenever I post my report to the website, it'll be in print there for everybody to go see.
Great, thank you.
Is that good? Yes, ma'am. Okay? All right, very good. All right, so moving on. So real quick, going back up to the top so I can get this through for you guys. The fire department report, they responded to 10 calls. That breaks down to a pipeline rupture, 2 gas leaks, 1 electric pole fire, 1 they assisted the EMS with a lift, 1 brush and grass fire, they assisted KPD with missing runaway child, they did that twice. They did a dumpster fire, and then they assisted B County on several fires out there. They reported they had 1 member sign up in February. They also stated that truck 606 needs its throttle adjusted, that it's loose, and that truck 608's pump is leaking, so that's going to have to be looked at and be taken care of. Mr. Farrell is a gentleman who represents an organization whereby back in 2019, September 2019 to be more precise, the city of Kenedy ordered a emergency response trailer. It has not been delivered, though it's been paid for. Right now it's waiting on Chief Bryan to get with Mr. Farrell. They need to get together as to what type of radio is to go on that, and then that radio needs to be purchased so it can be installed, and then I believe that's all it takes before that trailer gets delivered to us. There was a little bit of a difference in the report that was handed to us and what I've actually been able to verify. So unfortunately, I'm only going to report what I can actually verify. On February the 4th, 3 members of the fire department formed a nonprofit domestic corporation in the state of Texas under the name of Kenedy Volunteer Fire Department, and they registered with Texas. It has not been validated that any paperwork has been submitted to the Internal Revenue Service, which I did a thorough check this afternoon, for a 501c3, nor has it been validated that they have even applied on an SS4 for their FEIN number yet. But 3 members did form a corporation and registered with Texas. At the January meeting, before they even did this formation, the fire department adopted a new constitution, new set of bylaws. I'm not sure how that works, but they're not on this agenda to be approved by council, and they do have to be approved by council. Okay. Code enforcement. They issued 2 residential building permits, 1 for flat work, 1 for HVAC. They issued 1 commercial building permit for electrical. Bureau Veritas has performed 3 plan reviews and 9 total inspections. Those 9 inspections include 2 residential electric, 1 residential plumbing, 1 residential flat work, 1 residential framing, 3 commercial electrical, and 1 commercial framing. We issued 14 violation letters, 2 for public nuisance, abandoned vehicle, 7 for litter control, which is high weeds, grass, and shrubs, and 5 for dangerous buildings. They issued 191 address, and 24 residents utilized the roll-offs. The municipal court saw 135 defendants, and they collected a total of $28,648.11, and the net to the city of Kenedy was $21,273.65. Projects that we have currently going on. Marshall Company is going to be mobilizing. Marshall is the organization that the city of Kenedy awarded the contract to construct the restrooms at the sports complex. So they're going to begin mobilizing to begin constructing those. And it's anticipated, depending upon weather, that they should be done within 120 days after they commence construction. As we reported a while back, we were the recipient of a CDBG grant. Forgive me if I don't know the part of town which it is commonly referred to, but it's over here near the Waco Streets area, and that and 792 for sewer service. 6S Engineering was the engineering company way back when that grant was written and selected to be the engineering for that. They have come out on site and they have taken a look at the site, and they are going to determine whether an environmental survey is necessary, and if so, they're going to begin moving forward with acquiring the organization to do that. So that CDBG grant project is moving forward. The Carrizo Well project, Weisinger has drilled to a depth of 2,432 feet on well number 17 with no incidents, and they anticipate to have the bore completed and the casting set later this week. So that well is moving ahead rapidly. So we're there. I spoke with Ms. Langford, and the General Land Office has pushed again the awarding of the 2017 grant to April. They have begun awarding the 2015s and 2016s. I'm seeing emails come in with those. Our application for the drainage and for the water line, both of those applications are for the 2017 grant award. So just to let you know, that's where we are on that. In the interim, I'm working still with Ms. Langford and her firm for us to start moving forward with the Texas Water Development Board and their programs that they have in loans and grants as well to try to get things moving along. We're going to need to be putting pipe in the ground before too long. So anyway, all right, so that completes those sections of the reports. Wait, one other thing I need to mention before y'all have any questions. I want to congratulate the Kenedy Fire Department. It is my understanding that ConocoPhillips is going to be giving them a $7,000 award sometime later this week for, I guess, a grant they applied for. So I want to congratulate them on receiving their award. Questions on that part? Okay, moving on to the financials real quick. Okay, so before I get into the meat and potatoes like I normally do, a couple of counselors have asked me to drill down on a few numbers. And since they're financial numbers, this would be the proper time for me to say these. Mr. Drua and his organization currently runs our website. He's been doing a really good job. I talked to Mr. Drew about what it would cost the city of Kenedy to have him to continue to do things like he's been doing on an ongoing basis. His hourly rate is $190 an hour, and he said it would take about 1 to 2 hours per month to do what I'm asking him to do. So we're looking, if we stay with Mr. Drew working it like this, we're looking at an extra $380 a month roughly. And he's very quick with what he does.
How does that cost compared to what we were paying before? I would assume significantly less.
Well, we didn't before.
Or was there like a lump sum payment before?
It was before the company we were using, Mixed Marketing. They didn't do this. We all had too many problems with Ms. Hines having issues with the site being able to upload, and that's why things were the way they were. So it really was just, if you take all of Ms. Hines' hours that she spent doing this and all the frustrations and what didn't get done, this number right here pales in comparison to what we paid Ms. Hines to do this, in addition to paying Mixed Marketing.
Do we have that in the budget now, or do we need, or is that going to come
When we do
later?
our budget amendment, if the council decides to go on with this on a more permanent basis, I'll move it to where we have it. It will be a temporary thing regardless, given the situations that are going on and the extra duties with Ms. Hines being out on leave right now. So, the other number that I was asked to drill down on is the total cost of the sports complex. There's a couple of ways we can figure this. The best way to figure it's the most accurate. The sports complex and I was gonna do a whole little thing to show the residents who really owns the debt. We're not gonna do that tonight. There was a budget of $7.5 million to build those fields out at the Larry Kiesling complex. That was the budget, $7.5 million. That money was cash that the city of Kenedy received from the sale of bonds. So that's where you are. We have already spent cash money, and this includes the money that is fixing to be spent for these bathrooms. $8.7 million. It's actually $8,710,667. That's what we spent. So if we want to know what the true cost of this complex is, we take that number, the $8,710,667, and you subtract the $7.5 million from that. That gives you a balance of $1,210,667. Then you take the cost of your bonds over the life of your bonds, principal and interest. And I know there's people out there right now, and forgive me if I'm going to overstep my bounds when I say this, I'll take my lumps for this. There's people out there on Facebook right now saying I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. But I'm going to tell you right now, we, the city of Kenedy, own that debt, not the 4B. The 4B has nothing more than a civil contract with the city of Kenedy. The debt was acquired under the FEIN number and the city of Kennedy's name. And their bond rating was used to get this bond, not the 4B's. Now, the 4B will reimburse us, and that's fine. But we own that debt. And that debt, when you take the yearly payments, which include principal and interest, and multiply it times the life of that debt alone is $9,755,200. That is what we will pay back on those bonds. The total cost of the sports complex is the addition of the bond amount at maturity plus the overspent money of the budget. And that total comes to $10,965,947. When there are no contractors out there and everybody walks away, that is the cost of that complex to the residents of the city of Kenedy. That $7.5 million complex is costing almost $11 million in the end. So, that is the final number. If we spend no more than what's already put out there spent.
And this doesn't include maintenance and operations.
That does not include ongoing maintenance and operations. No, sir. That's just construction.
If the restrooms come in on contract.
The restroom number is in that amount, and yes, ma'am.
If there's no change orders or anything else.
There won't be any financial change orders because I don't do them. I may give them days, I won't give them money, and they know it. Because we operate on a budget. See, one of the things that people don't understand about a municipality, especially contractors, is that the finance code states that we can only spend money in strict accordance to the adopted budget. And that is in the finance code of the state of Texas. That means if you hire somebody and you award them a contract of $1 million, they can't spend $1,001,001. They have to spend $1 million or less because you budgeted $1 million. Unless you do a budget amendment. So, to answer all the councilors' questions who wanted to know that number, that is the number. If you want to round up, say 11 million.
So how do we go from 7.5 all the way up beyond that? What to 8.7 that you said? What expenses extra were added, or what was changed? That we were supposed to be brought to council prior to any changes, correct?
The biggest expense on the sports complex that drove it over budget with the cash on the budget that we had, I'm not talking about the bond monies, I'm talking about the $7.5 million. The biggest expense was Hanson Engineering. The city of Kenedy budgeted $300,000 for Hanson Engineering and for attorney fees on this complex. And Hanson Engineering came in right about $1.1 million is what we paid them. So they were $800,000 over budget on this. And that is a subject that I will be taking up with our city attorney and the attorneys from Hanson on how we're going to proceed with some other things. So, and it's something that I've been looking at very hard. And it's not the only thing. There's been other projects. But anyway, to answer your question, Councilor, it's how. Okay? All right, moving on. If you look at the colored graph, we're 5 months into the budget year, and we're looking at about a 41.67%. That's what we should be doing. That's our benchmark number. So let's start with the available liquidity like we always do. The general fund tax pool account has $4.189 million in it. The hotel and motel tax has $2.225 million in it. The water and sewer has $853,000 in it. And the paving fund has $2.449 million in it. Total tax pool account reserves is $9.717 million. At the time of this, we had $2.668 million in cash in the bank to cover our outstanding checks, which gives us a total liquidity of $12.385 million. That amounts to about 7.94 months worth of expenses. So, see, Mayor, we're kind of, I know that you had caught that last time. We're kind of starting to level out a little bit. Okay. Our benchmark number is 41.67. Our revenues for the general fund were $655,321, which is about 25%. So we're underperforming our revenues in the general fund. We took in $642,480 in the water and sewer fund. The budgeted amount, that brings us to 45.15%. So we're outperforming our budget there. And our total revenue for the month is $1.297 million. It's about 33.2%, so we're underperforming. And once again, for all those residents who haven't been tuning in every month, let me reiterate, the reason why the revenues are lagging isn't because we're lagging in revenue. It's because when we purchased land, we had to move that money to the expense column, but we couldn't move it to the revenue column because it's not revenue. So that's why we're looking at that. The expenditures, we have $662,400 on the general fund, which is at 64.67% total is where we're at. Again, that's because of the expenditures of the land, so we're underperforming there. The water and sewer did $623,095 in expenditures for the month, which brings them to a total of 35.42%. They are outperforming their budget because they're below the 41.67, and our total expenditures for the month were $1.285 million, and total overall we're at 53.1%. So we're still kind of underperforming the budget there, but again, that's due to the acquisitions of land that we had. Any questions from anybody on the financials or reports?
Tax revenue starting to show up.
What's that?
Tax revenue.
Tax revenue is starting to come in, yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. If there are no questions, Mr. Mayor, back to you.
Any questions for Mr. Lynn?
I
Thank you,
do
Mr.
have one question. Can we update, I forgot to ask Mr. Higgins this earlier. A lot of people have asked me what the stage 2 restrictions actually are, because on our Facebook page, it still says that we're in a stage 3. It's pinned at the top. Can we update that and include like a detail of the specifics so that, you know, residents know when they can water, when they can't, et cetera?
We will do it on Facebook, and I'll have Mr. Drew put it on the website.
We were in stage 3 for so long, I think people are just used to it.
Yes, sir. No, sir. Thank you for reminding me about that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council? If not, we'll move on to agenda item number 8, consent agenda. This section shall provide for items that require action by the council, but where little or no discussion is anticipated. By a single motion, second, and affirmation majority vote, items under this section are approved without further discussion or action. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? Any discussion or questions on the consent agenda at this time? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Consent agenda A and B.
Consent agenda A and B.
Consent agenda
I'll
A and
second
B.
it.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lynn? Second was Mr. Brioni. Mr. Lynn, if you can call the roll.
Counselor Wynn.
Yes.
Counselor Briones.
Yes.
Counselor Sines.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Counselor Douglas.
Yes.
All in favor.
All voted in favor. Motion carries. Next section of the agenda lists ordinance/resolution/other action items. This section shall provide for all other official discussion and action items provided for consideration by the council. Item number 9, consideration and possible action in regard to Ordinance 21-05, an ordinance extending the juvenile curfew, offenses, defenses, and penalties found in Chapter 62, Article 2, Division 2 of the City of Kenedy Code of Ordinances. Presenter is City Manager Lynn. Do you have anything further on this other than what we discussed during the public hearing?
No, sir. This would be the opportunity if y'all want to make adjustments.
Any questions from the council at this time?
I'm gonna make a motion that we consider item number 9 on the agenda.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second.
Now would be the time for us to talk about what we want to do with that as far as the changes that we made doing the hearing.
Yeah, I don't think it's required to have a motion and a second to discuss, but if you're comfortable with that, we can do that. There's no issue with that as far as I'm concerned. Are there any questions or discussion on this item by the council at this time?
If we make this, not make, but we accept what we talked about in the hearing, do we have to also amend what was there, including what James recommends as well?
If the city attorney can refresh my memory, I believe he will have to make a motion to change as amended and capture that in his
Just making
motion.
sure, so we have the right motion and everything's in place, so.
So is everybody comfortable amending the time that Chief Ash recommended from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m., where it states 10 p.m.? And then adding, how can we word that? Or do we just? Okay. I need to say that too. Okay. Is everybody, y'all good with all that other stuff?
Yeah.
All right,
Motion at this time.
I'd like to make a motion to amend Ordinance 21-05, an ordinance extending the juvenile curfew offenses, defenses, penalties under Chapter 62, Article 2, Division 2 of the City of Kenedy Code of Ordinances to include the changes discussed and, what was it? And including an affirmative defense for homeschool.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, Mr. Lynn, if you'll call the roll.
Counselor Wynn.
Yes.
Counselor Briones.
Yes.
Counselor Sines.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Counselor Douglas.
Yes.
All in favor.
All voted in favor, motion carries. Item number 10, consideration and possible action in regard to Ordinance 21-04A, creating and establishing the Kenedy Fire Department as a career fire department. Ordinance 21-04B, creating and establishing the Kenedy Fire Department as a combination fire department. Ordinance 21-04C, creating and establishing the Kenedy Fire Department as a volunteer fire department, and directing the city manager to take any and all measures necessary in creating and establishing the selected fire department type. This item was laid on the table at the February 9th council meeting to be picked up at the March 9th council meeting. And our presenter is City Manager Lynn. Do you have a presentation on this?
Someone has to pick it up first, Mayor.
Okay, do I have a motion to pick up the item from the table?
I'll make a motion to pick the item up from the table.
We have a motion from Councilmember Sines. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Councilmember Wynn. Mr. Lynn, if you have a presentation on this?
Thank you. right, council, let's clear the air real quick about what this is about and what this is not about.
Thank you.
Okay? I've heard a lot of chatter. I've seen a lot of chatter. A lot of good people have stood up here and made comments to the city council. Let me say this. This is not about forcing anybody out. I want to be clear. This is not about making the fire department a volunteer, a hybrid, or a career fire department for the sake of doing it. What this is about, and what exactly this is about, is if you go to the National Fire Protection Act, number 1710, section 4, section 4.1.1, it states, the authority having jurisdiction shall maintain a written statement or policy that establishes the following. And the very first item there is existence of the fire department. As you sit here tonight as the city council, please know that your forefathers that came before you failed to establish a fire department. They did not establish a volunteer fire department. They did not establish a paid fire department. They did not even establish a hybrid fire department. All we have is good-natured residents fighting fires on behalf of the residents of Kenedy without structure from the governing body. All we are doing tonight is giving them that structure and saying, this is what the governing body that sits here tonight desires to have as a fire department. It can be whatever you want. The fact of the matter is as your city manager, I would be failing you if I brought an ordinance to you that said volunteer only, because I would not be giving you your choices. It is my job to give you, the council, choices. It is your job to choose. This is not about vendettas. This is not about anything other than this governing body saying, we need to get a grip on this because we got some people out there who are running around putting their lives in harm's way for our residents. We need to give them some structure so we can do the things we need to do as a municipality to help them. Are there benefits to a volunteer? Yes, there are. There are innumerable. Are there benefits to a hybrid? Yes, there are. They are innumerable. And are there benefits to a career fire department? Yes, there are. And they are innumerable. But that's not what we're here for. We need to make a decision tonight and right this wrong. The only thing the forefathers of this municipality ever did, and I will state this, and we have poured through the minutes, have we not? Since the 1900s, the only thing the forefathers did was they established two paid positions in this city. A fire marshal and an assistant fire marshal. And his salary was $3 a week. So that is all they have established. So tonight, council, I will field any questions you have regarding the subject matter that's on the agenda. We are not talking about chief's trucks. We are not talking about vendettas. We're not talking about bylaws. We're not talking about constitutions. All we're talking about tonight, and needs to be limited to, is what type of fire department do you, the city council, want for the residents of this town? Mayor?
I have a question, Mr. Lynn. This morning, I received copies of 3 ordinances. Do you think it's fair to allow the public to review those ordinances and read them in detail before we move forward on this?
I think, Mayor, if we want to move forward with this, the ordinances, all they simply are going to state is establish. I think that we can talk about what the benefits are. I'm certain that if Chief Bryan is here, or Mr. Salas is here, or any of the directors are here, they can come up here and they will stand here and they can tell you some of the benefits as well. At this point in time, we just first need to figure out what we want. Whatever the ordinances are really do not matter if we don't make a decision as to which one we want. I mean, I'll make recommendations as I'm asked, but I'm not just going to tell you what to do.
Yeah, and the citizens have made it kind of loud and clear that they are set and they want a volunteer fire department, but it would be nice to hear the benefits of a hybrid and the benefits of a paid and the benefits of a volunteer before we as council establish. And all we're doing tonight is establishing, because one of the things that they need to get their 501 or 503, to get their nonprofit status, they need to have something that says it's been established by the city of Kenedy. They don't have that. They've been working on trying to get that done, but that one piece is nowhere to be found.
Yes, ma'am, we have a comment from the audience.
I have the paperwork here that we have from the IRS, that we are in the process of that, as well as working with the CPA on the 501c.
It's all been in progress. It's in progress.
It's in progress.
We already been established by the Secretary of State, being our own organization as the Kenedy Volunteer Fire Department Incorporated. We have our own EIN number. It's pretty sad that we have to do it on ourselves and we couldn't get the help from fire administrators, so-called.
That's supposed to be helping.
That's supposed to be helping us. But we've been doing it all on our own just to show y'all how much we actually care about this department. And like you said, you're saying we got nothing established? Yes. It should have been established 2 years ago when we actually had a negotiation with the contract with the city. But when he got hired, the contract disappeared. And along with the 501c3 application. When Barbara Shaw was here, her and Mayor James, when they were there, went down to the department, told us that they wanted to help us get established. And since he took over, it went away. So we've been waiting, we've been trying to cooperate. Not once has he met with us. So pretty much we thought we were on our own. And so me and a couple other members, we took it upon ourselves to get our department established and to try to get the 501c3 that y'all been requesting. So that's the next step that all we're waiting on. And we have a CPA that has it, that's helping us fill it out. But due to that it's tax season right now, it's taking a little bit longer.
My question is, if they were never, or if we were ever never established, why ever was there a budget for the fire department? Why has there been a budget for the fire department?
Mr. Lynn, would you like to respond to that?
Usually in a municipality, that's what you would do. But when I came in last year, I came in and took over just what was already here. Okay. I did have a meeting with Attorney Ruiz on March the 17th last year. Mr. Ruiz did inform me at that point in time that he was working on an agreement for the volunteer fire department to be with the city of Kenedy. However, he couldn't go forward with it because they couldn't establish them as a legal entity. The reason why they don't think I've been helping them is because in the meetings we have had, and I've tried to explain it to them, they've been very resistant, as Councilor Briones was in all those meetings. Okay? The simple fact of the matter, Mayor, is very simply this in council. You can't get my help to do things until we do things properly, which is first you have to be established. That is what the attorney wanted. This was handed into my lap. And through the paperwork I did go through in the office from the prior administration, I did see an agreement. It had a big old blue X on it and was crossed out. There was nothing to be presented to this council ever.
Yes, sir.
Because it was barely in the negotiation stage. But also, sir, I'm just going to say, that's where you're wrong, because you're getting all your information from the councilman instead of the fire chief. Not once have you communicated with fire chief to see exactly what we needed. And that's where you went wrong with this, because you never once met with us.
Help me here.
I'm Salas.
Okay, you're Mr. Salas?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So, Mr. Salas, I met with Chief Bryan for the budget and asked him what he needed. I told Mr. Bryan what I was trying to do to get the fire department with SCBAs and apparatuses and things that you all need, okay? We could really go down the whole path if we want, okay? Hold on, I got the floor. But that is not why we're here tonight, okay? If we want to have this discussion, we can have this discussion another time. Tonight, the problem is this. The city attorney in 2020, Adolfo Ruiz, told me, the new city manager, had been here less than a week, to figure out why you all, the fire department, were not a legal entity. Okay? I got hit with COVID right off the bat. But I figured out why you're not a legal entity. I figured it out with the help of the staff. And now, I'm moving forward to rectify that for you. For you. Not because of you, but for you. So we can work together, or you can continue to try to work against me, and that's the way it's going to be. But I guarantee you, I will take care of you very well. And this is the first step. We have to figure out, the council chooses what you're going to be. Not the three of you. Not the three of you.
If it takes the three of us to speak for our department,
No,
yes,
sir.
it will. And the bad thing is, sir, as being city manager, you should be the boss or the grown up to come and talk to the fire department.
And I talked to the chief.
And twice or three times. maybe.
4 times.
And I said it.
And I've called him 5, and he won't return my calls. I've texted him several times, he won't return my text.
No, sir.
Mr. Salas?
No, you haven't, sir.
We even invited you over to the fire station.
No, y'all haven't, but that was the mayor.
Okay.
Mr. Baker?
But that's not why we're here. Mayor,
Please, if we could talk one at a time, please. Thank you.
actually, we need to get back on point to why we're here, and none of this is why we're here.
Well, Mr. Lynn,
No, this doesn't have to do with the decision. Because all it matters to the council is what they want to do. It doesn't matter about whether or not I've talked to you. No, it isn't about
You want, pretty much.
It isn't about what I want.
Mr. Lynn.
Of saying very much so that I will do with all I have in my power to make sure that I have what I want established.
No.
Order, please. Order, please, for a moment. Thank you. If we could all speak one at a time. As I understand the law, and it's a recently changed law, the public has the right to comment on any agenda item that we consider. So I want to give everybody their fair opportunity to comment, as long as we do it in a respectful and civilized way.
And that is what we're going to do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down so they can use the mic. Okay?
Any discussion or questions from the council at this time?
My question is, are we going to talk about the agenda item? Because the agenda item just gives us 3 options. And that's what we should be talking about, those 3 options.
There's 3 ordinances.
3 ordinances, but those are 3 options. Each one of those ordinance gives us a different type of fire department.
That's correct. One is all volunteer, one is hybrid, which is half paid, half volunteer, and the other is all professional.
That's right. So that's the agenda item, and that's what we need to talk about. And if we're going to have a conversation, that's what you have to help them to do. That's the conversation. That's the agenda item. That's the conversation we need to have. If they want to talk about why they want to volunteer, why they want to have a hybrid, or why they want to have all of that is on the agenda. Anything outside of that is not.
Yes, ma'am.
If we're going to talk about what's on the agenda, why don't we talk about why does he need to be in charge of any of those?
That's right. Council?
I have a question.
He's the city manager, and regardless of who is the city manager, y'all are gonna have to work with the city manager.
Not for.
No, with, that's what I said, with. Regardless of who is the city manager, and regardless of who's sitting up here as council or mayor.
That's right.
Our fire department, just like the rest of our departments, have to work with whoever's in charge. And we gotta find some common ground to be able to work together. And that's the only way you do that is to sit and have conversation.
Yeah, whether you guys like it or not, you are an entity of the city as well. And again, no matter who's sitting in that chair, you're going to have to deal with them. So I think the best thing we can do is make a decision, and then from there,
Work together.
Grown-ups, we have to work together. Yes.
The only thing that we have a problem with is just the way he worded it. Because it's pretty much meaning that.
Worded the agenda item?
Yes, on the any means necessary for the city manager in creating the fire department. Do you see how it's going? He pretty much wants
I don't believe that
control.
was his statement, if I understand. That was from the state. Am I correct or not?
The one that I read? Yes, that's from the NFPA.
No, I'm talking about the paper he read up here. I understand what the agenda is, but the statement he made up here was from the state of Texas, not from Mr. Lynn. I'm not taking up for him.
But the NFPA, you know how that we have to be established, and that's why I asked him, if we weren't ever established, why did y'all budget for us?
Well, that goes back
I
to
mean,
the
that goes
prior.
back to
Yeah, that goes
1900.
back prior to
I know.
anybody here when they put that in there.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. When I came into the municipality last year, the budget line item for the fire department was already established. I just take over, okay?
Right.
When I have an attorney tell me that he's trying to get the two sides together, but he can't because they're not a legal entity, and I have an attorney drop it in my lap, then I have to do what I do, and it takes time sometimes, okay? But what I'm trying to say is, I've done what I was supposed to do, and that is why we're here tonight, to make it right. As far as everything else goes, no offense, I've put 501c3s together left and right. I know how to write the paperwork, I know how to get them done, and if you're not going to get more than $50,000 in a year in revenues, you can do it online in a 1023 EZ form, and you can have your 501c3 certification inside of 6 weeks. Okay? So, you know, it happens.
And that was based all on the fact that nothing was established and you didn't have any paperwork to show that.
Right, and that's what we've got to do tonight.
That's it.
And that's what we're trying to do tonight, is get you guys established so that we can go forward with you guys and get you what you
At
need.
the end of the day, the city of Kennedy is responsible for all its departments, and that includes
the
fire
fire
department.
Volunteer or not.
Volunteer or not.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
All we're trying to do is get you where you need to be. After that, we're going to have to work together. You're going to have to sit down with him, your officers, whatever, but we need to get along. We need to act like grown-ups, get the work done, and be where you need to be so that you can go and continue.
And none of us
to
is
do what it
trying
is you
to
do.
take something away. All we're trying to do is to get you established so that you are legal. That's it. That's all we've been trying to do for the whole time. And you have to and he's right. It wouldn't be fair if he came to us as council and said, this is your only option. These are the three options that's available, and us as council, we have to look at that because our job is to do what's best for the entire city.
And Mr. Lynn's job is best to do the same thing, to give you options as a city council.
That's right.
Yes.
So that's all that's happened with the fire department. All of this other stuff is just stuff. I don't do Facebook, and that's why I don't do Facebook, because you got everybody in the world giving you their opinion on what they think, but none of them have done the research to be able to give that information. This is all we want to do: make you solid. So if you all as a community feel that a volunteer fire department is all we need, then that's what we want to talk about. If you think that as we grow as a community, it might be beneficial to have a hybrid department, then that's what we're going to talk about. But this has nothing to do with anything else other than trying to get you what you need to have. That's it.
And Mr. Lynn made it clear, if we select hybrid, that's our volunteer, no one's being pushed out the door, correct?
That's
They can
correct.
stay as a volunteer.
This isn't about,
This isn't getting rid of anybody, this isn't taking anybody.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So what we've already started though, with our paperwork, with our stuff that y'all thought we hadn't had, or thought we weren't doing at all, you know, that's what I'm saying, like, you're basing the three choices because y'all felt like we weren't, like y'all needed help now, okay?
No,
That's
we're-
fine. The thing is, we started that process already, so let us finish with our process before y'all decide to make a decision. You know, because we're already doing it, we're already establishing that, we're already putting, you know, forward into, you know, that work of what that is.
But you're not the city of Kennedy.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works.
You're not.
You're not.
You're not the city of Kennedy.
Chief Bryan?
Can you read item B again, the way it
In its totality? You mean the ordinance?
you got three ordinances there.
Yes. Ordinance C? It will take some time. It's pretty lengthy.
That was my question.
You mean the?
You
what's
mean
on
the agenda
agenda?
item number
The whole
10?
thing read.
Okay, I'll reread the agenda item. Number 10?
10.
Okay.
Item C.
Item C.
Item number
Where's
10.
item C?
There's no item C. It's just,
21
there's three choices. Just read 10
21,
over again.
Okay, yeah, let me reread the agenda item, so to clarify. Item number 10 says, consideration and possible action in regard to ordinance 21-04A, creating and establishing the Kenedy Fire Department as a career fire department. Ordinance 21-04B, creating and establishing the Kenedy Fire Department as a combination fire department. Ordinance 21-04C, creating and establishing the Kenedy Fire Department as a volunteer fire department, and directing the city manager to take any and all measures necessary in creating and establishing the selected fire department type.
Why is that only added on 2104B?
It covers all three of
That
them.
refers to
That
all
goes
three
to all
of them.
three of them.
It goes
Three separate
All three of
ordinances.
them.
Whichever one is the choice.
Whichever
it
one we
covers.
choose.
Whichever one's a choice, the city manager still
take
has
it
to
to-
do what's necessary to make it work, to make it
To
happen.
work with you.
Okay, and I also have, if you did consider making it a hybrid or a full paid, would that be taxed to the people of Kennedy?
Mr. Lincoln, you address that, would that come out of the city's budget?
Right, what would happen is, if the city council chose to do either one that has paid fire department members, okay, that would just be a reallocation of the current city funds that we have to establish to go in there to take care of those salaries and training and all that. There's
Ms.
not going to
Casper?
be an additional tax on the residents for that. Is that what you're asking? No, there won't be an additional tax for that if they did that, no.
Ms. Casper?
Two questions. Number one, if you Google 4 types of fire departments, it says volunteer, paid on call, and career. I think that it would behoove the discussion if everybody understands what a combination fire department is. And next, if the city does anything other than a volunteer fire department, currently Kenedy Volunteer Fire Department receives tax dollars from the county's emergency services district. Will those dollars still be available to the city if it becomes a paid department or a combination department and not a volunteer department? And, third question, sorry. Will the department be able to respond to fires outside the city if it is not a volunteer department?
Mr. Lincoln, you
The
respond to
answer
that?
to the last one is, fire departments respond to fires in the fire district. The fire district is set for all fire departments around. So if they're currently, and I haven't looked to see where the district goes, so forgive me, gentlemen, if I misspeak here. But for example, if they can go all the way down the road to Pettis and put out a fire today, regardless of what you do, they can still go to Pettis and put out a fire. The fire department can always respond to whoever needs help. So if Three Rivers had an emergency call, our paid fire department, if that's what was chosen, could get in their vehicles and speed down to Three Rivers to help out. There is no limitations on the fire department within the municipal boundaries like there is with the police department.
And what about the monies from the ESD? Have you researched into that? Whether
The
those-
monies from the ESD are given to the city of Kenedy as compensation for attending fires outside of the city limits in the county where there is no fire service. I would say those would probably stay intact because they would still be responding.
They also receive monies quarterly based on the allocation that the ESD board does. It's not just in response to fires.
Those agreements would stay. At least for the hybrid, for sure. The complete career one, I would have to research a little bit more.
I don't think we need a career fire department.
No.
And I'm not 100% sold on the hybrid, but we do need to establish something so that you guys are in where you should be, so that if something goes wrong, you have some kind of protection. Right now, you are what's the word? Not amateur, because you're not amateurs, you're professionals.
Improvised?
That's right. You're an improvised fire department that got started, and somebody forgot to do the rest of the paperwork to make you legal. And that's all we're trying to do tonight, is just make you legal and put you in a place where you should have been 100 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 50 years ago.
To get help to those volunteers that are doing it.
Yeah. Because when we as a city spend money that on something that we don't have set up correctly, if the wrong people find out, we're in trouble. And we don't want to be in trouble. We don't want to have anybody trying to take monies from us. We don't want anything blowing back on us. We want to have it as right as we know to make it. And none of us wants to hurt anybody. We don't want to do something that's going to not benefit the city of Kenedy. That's what we're here for. And all this stigma that you guys are feeling, and the frustration and all that, no one is, we were even trying to find, we've been looking for a place for a fire station. But we can't find something that's going to work, that we can have enough money to get, but we're going to find it. We're going to get it done.
If we get established as the volunteer, do we have to form a contract between us and the city?
That would be correct. We would have to have an agreement between the volunteer fire department and the city of Kenedy, which I only read the one section, but that NFPA 1710, Section 4 outlines all that. It would have to outline everything that you all would be doing and providing and everything of that nature. And we would do that. We would move very quickly once you guys were completely established and had all the documents completed, including your 501c3. We would move very quickly to get that agreement rewritten and established for you guys so that you guys could be made whole and move forward.
I just don't want to make a transition, because transitioning isn't an overnight phenomenon. We just don't want it to where we're not able to service like we used to, and there's no one here to service at all because we're in the middle of making.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
No one is going to stop. No one in this room wants to stop you from doing what you're doing.
Not that stop us, but
Limit y'all.
We're not going. There's nothing we're going to do to stop you from taking care of the citizens of this community. All we're trying to do is make you right on paper. That's it.
I have a question.
Go ahead, James.
Since these three ordinances were not included in our packet, has anybody else had a chance to read them, and has the fire department read them?
I've read the ordinances, and I had some concerns in regards to the wording of the ordinances, and that was one of the reasons that I asked you to set this on the table until our June meeting, because I think we all need a little time to analyze the details that are in these. Like I said, if I read each ordinance, we'd be here till 10 o'clock. And so it's a lot of words there, and it's a lot to digest, and that was one of the reasons I suggested give everyone a little more time before we jump off one direction or the other. But the council, it's up to you five. It's your choice, and it was your choice to consider this item tonight.
Has the fire department had a chance to read all three of these options, or were they even provided a copy of all three of these options?
No, I got them in early this morning.
Okay.
I provided a copy to sorry. When the officer.
Mr. Baker sent me a copy this afternoon. I got it about 3:45.
Yeah, I did.
We were able to send it out, but not completely go over it. So that was part of the discussion. If we could, if y'all wanted to go volunteer and stick to volunteer, do we not have a meeting to discuss these ordinances? Do we not just say yes to volunteer and then talk about the ordinances later? Because there's a lot of questionable stuff in there that we feel that y'all should talk to us about.
I've been making notes.
I asked Mr. Baker last time if we could get a special meeting for cases like this, so you guys could talk to us, or we could talk to you, so we could have questions.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions myself.
One date didn't work for somebody, and somebody refused to do it. So, if something like that, if y'all could be tabled to it and open the discussion to talk to us about it, that'd be great. Because we have questions, and it sounds like you got answers.
Do y'all want to have a
Workshop?
Y'all want to have a workshop?
Wanna have a workshop?
We can have a workshop to discuss the
Three options.
the three options, and you guys can tell us what you think. We can tell you what we think. And when we have a workshop, nothing has to be voted on. See, tonight we either got to table this or vote on it,
Or take no action.
or take no action. And that's the deal. That's the only thing we get to do. But if we are in a workshop, we can talk about what's going to be beneficial. Why is it beneficial to have a volunteer fire department? Why is it beneficial to have a hybrid fire department? What's the benefits for Kenedy? Because that's what this is all about, the benefits for Kenedy. And you guys are not going anywhere. You're already trained. You already know what to do. So what sense would it make for us to go find some new people to do what you already know how to do? That don't make no kind of sense.
Mr. Aranda, sorry, your name finally came to me. Senior moment. But yeah, I agree with Leslie. I think a workshop's a good idea. This is why I tried to call a special meeting, as you're aware. And two of the council members did not indicate an interest in attending, and we need a quorum of 4 council members in order to convene a special meeting. And so we were unable to convene that meeting. And I wish we had, because it was a broadly open-ended topic, the concerns of the Kenedy Volunteer Fire Department, which could include all of these. This is a machine that has a lot of moving parts, and it's a lot of detail, and it's a lot.
I don't have any
digest.
problem with attending a workshop, but I do have a problem attending meetings to have a meeting. So then you got to, if you have a special meeting, you got to have an agenda, and you're going to vote on something. But if we're going to have a workshop, I'm all for a workshop, because
I think
we can have open
a
discussion.
workshop would be a great idea, because there's a lot of verbiage
Do you have a
in
question?
these.
Juan?
Yeah, Chief Ryan, yes, go ahead.
Well, one of the questions I was going to ask you about the meeting that we had asked for, and they declined it. So if they declined it that way, why didn't y'all bring that part up?
I wanted to address Councilmember Wynn, because he was one of the ones who, I gave him 2 different available dates and times, and he said neither worked with his schedule.
It didn't.
And then Councilmember Brione said that he just chose not to attend on
No, I had to
principle.
work on Tuesday, and I was going to be on town on that second day.
Well, you didn't explain that in your email.
I just said neither one.
No, you said that.
Anyways, that's what
Mayor,
happened, Joe. I wasn't in town on the second
May I have
day, and
the
I had
floor
to
for a
work the
second,
first
please?
time.
Yes, Mr. Lynn, please.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Gadd. Okay, so here we are. We've got the fire department guys say, we think it's a great idea, but we want to sit down and want to chat and go over some things. We've got the mayor and a couple of councilors saying, yeah, I think we should get together, we should chat, but we have an agenda item like it is. Would it be a violation if the action that they took tonight on this agenda item was, instead of approving any of the ordinances and instead of laying it back on the table, could they go ahead and make the motion to have a workshop on this agenda item as it's written?
You could make a motion to have a workshop on the agenda item as it's written. You could also make a motion to move forward with one style of the fire department and hold a workshop on that. Those are the 2 options that I would recommend as motions.
Okay, see, Mayor, so we have a solution
So-
and a way into it from that.
If we,
They're volunteer right now, so if we make them volunteers, they're already volunteers. And then we can work out the details in the workshop.
Yes, sir.
How can you say that we stay volunteer since it's in the agenda item, but make a motion that y'all don't follow through with the ordinance, making an actual ordinance? Because if you agree on that one, then technically you gotta agree on that ordinance that was written. But y'all have some questions, we have some questions, so why could you not, that do happen, and say, yes, we choose tonight to stay volunteer, but we're not gonna make an ordinance yet until we have a workshop to figure out what kind of ordinance we want, or what we want that ordinance to say. Because, I mean, the 2 options is either we vote on one of these and the ordinance, or we just talk about the workshop with these same ordinances.
Ms. God, can we elect to stay volunteer and not accept the ordinance until the workshop is discussed, and then come back and pass the ordinance?
We could postpone to a date certain. That would be the motion that would be made. But we would have to postpone to a date that you come back and for sure vote to pass an ordinance for the volunteer fire department.
Well, Ms. Gadd, let me put a different spin that kind of, I think, goes along with what the young man in the back is saying, okay? Can the city council tonight, if they want to go volunteer, vote to adopt the ordinance, but again, instead of adopting it like that, vote to adopt it as to be amended at a workshop? So they would have to, the motion would have to be something similar to, we agree to go ordinance 2104C, establishing the Kenedy Fire Department as a volunteer fire department, as to be amended. And they would have to say those words, as to be amended. And then they could go ahead and do that tonight, decide. Then we could have our workshop with the fire department. And then we could amend that ordinance for all sides. And we could kind of accomplish things and move forward to where we don't have to have another meeting to adopt the ordinance, because once we amend it, it would already be adopted.
Yes, a motion to approve as amended, on a date certain. That should be part of the motion.
Very good. Thank you.
Is there any members of the fire department that are opposed to us going forward with what was mentioned?
I mean, the only opposition I have is I feel that everyone should do their research. You know, I feel that it's not that y'all are attacking us, and it's not that y'all are trying to get rid of us. That's not what we feel. What we feel is that y'all might rush into a decision without fully understanding the measure of what it is that y'all are trying to have, done. It's just, if you can table it, that's good. If we have a workshop, that's even better, because then we can come up with an exact solution rather than trying to amend to a solution and trying to work it into something that's already there. Like, let's just come up with an ultimate answer and then agree on that.
But you all want a volunteer fire department.
The amendment covers that. We can make any change.
Yeah, we can make
We can
any
accept
other
y'all's
changes.
volunteer and then amend
Yeah,
the
you guys
ordinance.
want a volunteer fire department,
Kind of
right?
hesitant on that, but
City attorney's trying to explain.
but the amendment covers that.
Do it. She's not trying to talk against the volunteers. She's saying there's a process that needs to be done.
And that process don't change just because we
And
want
when
it
we
to.
sit down with y'all and there's stuff in there that you're not kosher with, and we'll make an amendment.
We'll talk about it.
Talk about
I don't know, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I don't know that, I mean, I already know which way I would go, but I don't know that there's anybody that would go any different. I think they should stay volunteer.
Yeah. I'll make a motion.
That's just me.
Are we all?
Wait, before
for
you make a motion, Mr. Brion, is there any further discussion on this from the audience or from the council or Mr. Lynn?
No, just make sure that when the motion's made, as the attorney suggested,
It needs to be
to
like
be
the-
amended, a date specific, and we
Do we
can,
have a specific date?
we can do the workshop.
Date specific.
Right, we can do the workshop anytime. The date specific can be the next council meeting to bring it to the table again, which would be April 13th.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
We can have a workshop in between.
One moment, Brandon. Yes, sir?
Why do you have to make an ordinance? Can you just establish, why can't you just say, make a motion that you establish us as a volunteer fire department as of today and continue going the way we've been going?
Austin, the whole reason we have an attorney sitting here is so she can guide us to do it right. And she's explained that twice on what our options are. What you want, we can't do. We can't do.
Not legally.
Not legally. We cannot do that. We're trying to give you what you want, but it has to be done legally. If we don't follow this stuff legally, number one, all of us are subject to jail time, including the mayor and the city manager. And the state of Texas has the ability to come into Kenedy and say, you're not doing it the way it should be done. We're going to take your money and we will deal it back out to you as we see fit. We don't want none of that. So our objective is to do what you're asking, but we have to do it the right way. We don't have a gray and a green. It is black and white. And the whole reason the attorney is here to keep us from getting in that gray and green.
Is there any further discussion or comments from anyone in the room? If not, I would entertain a motion at this time.
Go ahead and make a motion to,
What's the date for the workshop? You gotta include the date for the workshop.
we have a date. Oh, that's to come. And everybody will know.
Included in
No,
the
We have to include the date certain for bringing it back.
Which would be
but
the
the
next
workshop should be in between,
somewhere.
somewhere in between that, and we can set that.
And the mayor and I can get together on that date so that we can disseminate it to the council and get you all there.
Okay. I'll make a motion to select option 2104C, creating a volunteer fire department for the city of Kennedy to be the city of Kennedy's volunteer fire department established by the city of Kennedy, and to amend, have a workshop for the meeting, have a workshop for the ordinances as to be amended for a specific date for the next city council meeting.
Ms. Gadd, is that captured in the motion, what we discussed? To a date certain for
To
the
a date
next city
certain
council
for the
meeting.
next city council meeting.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion and second. Mr. Lynn, if you'll call the roll.
Counselor Wynn.
Yes.
Counselor Briones.
Yes.
Counselor Sines.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Counselor Douglas.
Yes.
All in favor?
Motion carries. It's my hope that we reach a mutually agreeable solution for the sake of the people of Kennedy. I commend all of you for being here tonight and expressing yourselves eloquently. You do great things for this community. I've seen it firsthand for more than 20 years. And you have my full support, and I think you have the full support of everyone else sitting up here. We just have to find a way to come together and get the job done. So I appreciate it.
Quick question. Can we make, once the workshop date is set, can we make sure that the chief, the fire chief, gets a copy of this ordinance so that they can review it prior to the workshop and we're not having to read it, word for word at the workshop?
Do it like this. Mr. Salas, are you the president of the fire department currently? Who is?
She's not here.
Okay. Would you rather us do it with the chief or with the president of the fire department?
The fire chief.
Okay, very good. I'll make it happen.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that way they get a chance to review it before
Yes.
the workshop.
We'll make it happen.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is item number 11. Consideration and possible action in regard to ordinance 21-06, an ordinance canceling the May 1st, 2021 regular election for council districts 3 and 5 and declaring each unopposed candidate elected to office, providing a severability clause and an effective date. Presenter on this is Mr. Lynn.
Okay, Mayor, Council. Okay, so the results are in. 3 and 5 are running unopposed. So according to the Secretary of State, what we have to do is we have to cancel the election for Districts 3 and Districts 5. Those two candidates will automatically win their seats, and then they can be appointed at the May 11th council meeting. And then all of the residents will have to vote on is District 1 at that point in time. So we are in the process, just so you know, I've been working with Ms. Perez to get the ballot verbiage right, as the Secretary of State wants it, but she is going to need this ordinance done tonight for us for that. So, any questions? Okay, very good.
Any questions for Mr. Lynn or any discussion on this agenda item? Seems pretty straightforward. I would entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion that we take action in regards to ordinance 21-06, an ordinance canceling the May 1st, 2021 regular election for Council District 3 and 5 and declaring each unopposed candidate elected to office, providing a severability clause and an effective date.
And just to clarify, that's to approve the ordinance.
To approve, yes.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Lynn, if you'll call the roll.
Counselor Wynn.
Yes.
Counselor Briones.
Yes.
Counselor Sines.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Counselor Douglas.
Yes.
All in favor?
All those in favor, motion carries. Item number 12 is a closed session item. City Council will meet in closed session in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code under Section 551.074, Personnel Matters, to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee. Item A, City Secretary. Item B, City Manager. So we will adjourn into closed session at this time. It is 8:10 p.m. and we will reconvene here after the closed session is completed.
I would like to do my open session. Please.
Ms. Gadd, it's her option to have it in open session. In that case, then, we will do the first part, City Secretary, in open session, and I will let our City Secretary have the floor.
I promise I didn't do this on purpose. My mom just called me and she was crying, so I had to go pick her up. So as all of y'all have received already, I have submitted my resignation. It looks like I will be a mom, stay-at-home mom for a couple of years. And I just wanted to formally let all of y'all know and thank y'all for everything. I've really enjoyed working for the city. It's brought great pleasure. I've loved serving the city and the community, and I'm really going to miss it, and everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Quick question, when is your last day, do you know?
I turned in, I believe March 15th would have been my day, the day I would have returned back to work, and so that'll be considered my last day. I have let Mr. Lynn and the other directors know if anybody needs my help with the transition. I'm more than willing to help. If when a new city secretary is hired, if any training is needed from me, I'm be more than willing to come and assist with anything.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Amanda.
How that baby doing?
In light of that news, I think we will need to take no action on the City Secretary portion. Is that correct, Mr. Lynn?
Correct.
Okay, and then we can adjourn now into closed section for item B, City Manager, and the time is 8:12 p.m. It's 10:42 p.m., and I am reconvening this meeting back into open session. The City Council will reconvene in open session, at which time action on the matter discussed in closed session may be considered. Is there any questions or discussion on item number 13 at this time? If not, I would entertain a motion.
One quick question. For item A, we don't have to make a
Ms.
motion
Gabb,
for that one, right?
for item A, we can take no action on that. The City Secretary, is that correct? Do we need a motion and vote to take no action, or just say no action? Okay, we're going to take no action on item A. Item B, City Manager, action to be taken regarding items discussed in executive session.
I'll make a motion that we accept the evaluation and score of 3.32 of the City of Manager, Mr. William Lynn.
I'll second that motion.
A motion and a second. Mr. Lynn, if you can call the roll.
Counselor Wynn.
Yes.
Counselor Briones.
Yes.
Counselor Sines.
Yes.
Counselor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Counselor Douglas.
Yes.
All in favor?
All in favor, motion carries. And with that leaves just one item on the agenda, and that's to adjourn. So,
Make a
thank
motion
you,
to
everyone.
adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion second, meeting adjourned. Thank you.